here's what we keep hearing. We keep hearing there is going to be a spring hardware launch from Microsoft, and now we're officially in spring.
Yeah.
Right. So
but they got 3 months.
No invitations have gone out. There's been no public date bandied about by Microsoft. We haven't got any information on when this is, but we do keep hearing there is going to be a hardware launch. So the question is, what are they going to launch? I mean, I guess I feel like everybody just automatically says, of course, they're going to launch Surface Book 2 and Surface Pro 5. I'm not actually sure they're going to launch either of those.
Really?
I'm doubtful.
Yikes.
Are they on a year? Well, I can't say with the Surface Book. That was brand new. But are they on a yearly launch for Surface Pro?
Well, hold on 1 second. So remember, Chris Capicella said on the podcast, I think, that. Please tell me he said this on the podcast before I say it. Let me think before.
Read his mind, Mary Jo. Would you like a moment?
Did he?
Should I mute your mics?
Okay. I believe this is on public record. If it's not, it's going to be. That the spring was a better time for hardware launches.
I think he said that.
Yes.
And
yes.
Okay, thank God. And in some ways, they're kind of normalizing the schedule. And so, we missed the 1-year anniversary on Surface Pro 4 and Surface Book, but maybe this time of year makes more sense. And we see Apple doing the same thing, right? I mean, they came out with the iPhone SE last year. They did their releases this week. They're probably going to do new iPad releases soon. Maybe this is the ideal time or the right time for this kind of thing.
The thinking, I believe, is that you want to hit the dads and grads, back to school, all those things. So you coming out around holiday, you miss all of those things. So if you come out, say you announce something in April or May, and you actually start shipping it in June or May or June. I'm just making these dates up. I don't know. Then you would hit all those things. You'd hit the back to school for sure, and you'd hit gifts for dads, gifts for grads. So maybe that's why the spring is more interesting. And we know, holiday this year, Microsoft's going to be more focused on the VR headset stuff. That's going to be end of year, and Project Scorpio, end of year. So maybe it's more of a business focus in the spring and more of an entertainment focus at holiday. Just maybe.
But I'm curious. You said you don't believe that Surface Pro 4 or Surface Book are going to be updated. So what makes you say that?
So I keep hearing from my sources not to expect Microsoft to launch Surface Book 2 at this event.
Wow. So,
right.
Now we know there are rumors about this clamshell thing, right? So are you saying perhaps that this is a different device?
I am saying that.
Oh.
Yeah.
So they might still do something, but they won't call it a Surface Book.
Right.
Well, in other words,
because I'm thinking Surface Book. The thing that we call Surface Book, it's a detachable PC, right? The whole differentiation for Surface Book was you can take the screen off, you can flip the thing around. It's a PC, but it's not just the same old PC that everybody else has. Now, the rumor from Digitimes that started a couple weeks ago was there's another Surface Book that is a clamshell. But does that make sense? Because Surface Book has a very distinct name, like brand name and set of features attached to it. So would they call something, if there is a clamshell, a Surface Book, or would they call it something else? My guess is something else.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. I mean, like the MacBook, right, is a laptop.
Yeah.
I mean, I that's interesting. I think I wrote this after the last show, but I wrote an editorial essentially praising the notion of a non-detachable Surface Book, right? Because part of the rumor, part of the Digitime story, is that this thing would have a starting price that was basically the same as Surface Pro 4 plus keyboard, which to me makes lots of sense.
Yeah.
We know this device hasn't sold particularly well because of the price point and so forth. And of course, they started off with very limited availability as well.
Yeah.
So I sort of wonder, and again, this is all speculation, to be clear, as we discussed last week.
Yeah.
I wonder if this doesn't represent a new low end of a Surface Book lineup where the non-detachable version would be the cheap one, and then you can go all the way up to performance base, like we have today.
That's more like what I would guess based on things I keep hearing.
Rather than a replacement.
Right. We're calling it a low end. I mean, the rumored price point is $1,000, so it's not really a low end.
We've slipped right into Apple land, haven't we? We've been so accepting of this stuff.
A $1,000 Apple laptop would be a big story, right?
Yeah. Now my other crazy idea I had when I started thinking about this, I'm like, okay, the other thing we've heard, well, we know this actually exists. There's something called Windows 10 Cloud. We don't think it has anything to do with the cloud. We think the main reason for it is to compete with Chromebooks.
The name is particularly intriguing on that note.
It is. It is.
It has nothing to do with the cloud. Let's call it Windows 10 Cloud.
But what if this clamshell, is something that's optimized for Windows 10 Cloud? So it's not like a Pixel book, but it's something else. Like the whole premise of the Surface brand is it has to be establishing a new category, as Microsoft says. So what would establish a new category for them with Surface? Yeah. Right?
Is an ARM-based laptop.
It seems so early to put an ARM-based laptop out there, right?
That's interesting. Two points to that. It seems early, right, for ARM, and we know ARM isn't supposed to happen until the end of the year.
Right.
And that makes me wonder about that. But by the way, that's an interesting idea because, and somebody asked me this via email, and I kind of, immediately downplayed that notion. But yes, that is the point of Surface. In fact, that one of the problems with a Surface non-detachable laptop is that product category already exists. It's called laptop, and there's no real reason to do that. Also, actually, a third point. When we first started talking about Windows 10 Cloud, a lot of people were comparing it to Chromebook and saying, this is going to be the Microsoft's next attempt to take on Chromebook and everything. I know that there will be low-end products running this version of Windows when it happens, whenever it happens. But I actually also believe there will be premium devices. I think that's a big part of the push. And it's not just for low-end stuff. People equate the lack of Windows desktop applications as being some kind of a lower-end thing. But I think what we're forgetting is that, the iPad Pro doesn't run Mac apps either. It's still a premium device with a big price tag. I think there are people out in the world who want a computer that actually just works. And we all know the problems with the App Store and all that. I get that, obviously. I talk about it all the time. But I do think there's a class of people out there who, if they could buy a premium device, like a Pixel, like you said, or this thing that could run, again, lackluster kind of collection of apps, but still, something that would be reliable, get great battery life. I mean, that kind of thing on ARM would never have to deal with the issues of emulating desktop apps. And by the way, as I'm talking myself through it, that might explain an early release. Maybe the first version of this thing on ARM doesn't run desktop apps, because that's coming later in the year. I don't know. Maybe. It's an interesting idea.
Yeah. The thing we have to keep coming back to is what is the thing that makes it a differentiated device? Like, what is it going to be? What can you do to a clamshell style device, if this is what this is, and make it something that's not going head to head with all their OEMs who make clamshell laptops? Like, what are they going to do to it that makes it different?
Except for the timing, I'm talking myself into this making sense all of a sudden, because the other thing is, $1,000 Surface Book is the complete opposite of this premium pricing strategy thing that they were doing, started doing a year and a half ago. And it seems weird that they would step back from that. However, a $1,000 Surface Book sounds like a fairly inexpensive Surface Book, but a $1,000 ARM-based Surface Book is that Pixel type thing you were talking about. It is, for that type of device, a premium device. It is the same kind of pricing.
True. That's true. Yeah, let's not call it a Surface Book. Let's call it something else.
Yes. Right.
Surface Cloud, something.
You could call it Surface RT.
I think that name's been taken, but maybe we shouldn't call it that. So to be clear here, we're just speculating. We don't know. We're giving credence to the thing that Digitime said, which is there's a clamshell style device that Microsoft has started manufacturing. We don't know the processor, but I don't think I can't say for sure it's not a Surface Book 2, but I keep hearing no, it's not that.
Well, Surface Book 2, that phrase suggests it's a replacement or the next version of the current one.
Right.
And
I don't
the notion
think it's
of this thing, yeah. So this thing's sitting alongside Surface Book,
yeah,
either as a completely different name or as a Surface Book something that is a whatever it is, a non-detachable laptop of whatever kind.
Right.
I
Okay,
like it.
so
I mean, I think it makes sense.